because in startup ecosystem, making money takes some amount of time. So one need to have that drive, that planning, so that they don't become desperate, and some kind of runway they should have. And then team efforts, we have seen that it yields better results. So rather than an individual running everything together, having a team, maybe two or three set of people, that gives much better, I would say, drive. Because at moments people might get demotivated, they may get into
Correct.
let's say thinking stage that maybe things may not work. So they need to get out, and that's where this team support system works. And then maturity. Maturity does not only mean in terms of age. Maturity means being open, being coachable, being able to learn, being able to appreciate the reality of the startup ecosystem, that 95% of the startups might die down, but it does not mean.
Hello everyone, I am Jitendra Singh, banker turned entrepreneur and author of the book Perfect Mastering the Art of Selling. I welcome you to read my story where I interview authors, speakers, coaches, celebrities, entrepreneurs, and more. Today I have with me Dr. Siddhartha Priya. He is multifaceted professional with rich academic and research background, currently serving as an independent consultant since November 2022. He offers valuable guidance to startup ventures and various startups. He is also imparts knowledge as an professional branding course instructor for independent director aspirants at Addictive Learning Pvt Ltd. His extensive career includes significant tenure at Northern Coalfields Limited from November 2017 to October 2022, where he played a pivotal role in facilitating an MOU between IIT BHU and NCL for research and development. Dr. Priya contributes extends to academic involvements, including presenting papers at international conferences on Opencast, mining, technology, and sustainability, organized in collaboration with IIT BHU. His journey is marked by academic excellence with PhD from RTM Nagpur University and LLB degree from Rajiv Gandhi College. He holds a postgraduate diploma in business management from prestigious IIM Ahmedabad and Bachelor of Technology in Electrical Engineering from IIT Kharagpur. His diverse roles have also encompassed corporate and entrepreneurial ventures, where he has excelled in strategic advisory, business development, and HR consulting. Dr. Priya is a dynamic individual who combines academic rigor with practical expertise and drive success in various domains. So today he will be discussing with us about his life journey. So let us hear from him. Welcome, sir. The platform is open, and now over to you.
Thank you, Jitendra, for having me here, and thank you for very detailed introduction. But I would say that that would only cover maybe, let's say, 40 or 50% of my journey. Of course, within that, whatever set of experiences I had with the individuals, that was quite valuable. So, would you like me to, would you ask questions, and then subsequently, would you
Yes, yes.
like me to answer?
Sure, sure. I'll
Okay.
ask. I'll ask the first question. So, how did your past life has affected the person you wanted to be in your life and what you are? So, it's moreover related to like your childhood when you were growing. You would be having certain thoughts about your career aspirations. So, from there till now.
So that had been very interesting journey, I would say. So I grew up in a small city, was born in a small place, Kushinagar in eastern UP. And my father was the first generation who got education, and he did a law degree, and then subsequently he practiced for a while. And then he got employed with Bihar state government. My Nanaji, he was in police. So some part of my life, we were three brothers. So some part of my life I spent with them. So it initial years, so it gave me some perspective about, you can say, per se the bureaucracy, law and order. But interestingly, law as a career never interested me. So I was quite driven towards, you can say, science, and I used to read a lot of comic books. So probably that helped me. And being from a small place, you do not get to have a lot of exposure. So that was, I would say, in a way, kind of also narrowed down maybe the activities I could involve myself. But creative aspects of inclination towards science, I would attribute also to some extent to these comic reading. And subsequently, when I finished my 10 plus 2, my father told to get admitted in BSc. I did not know about IIT, but Aligarh Muslim University, I knew about it. So I went there for exam. Unfortunately, I could not clear it. So I took a year of break. I got admitted myself into a BSc program, and then that was year 2000. IIT at first time I introduced prelims and mains. So I had my exam in Allahabad. I went there with my father, and I gave the exam. I was not too happy with my you can say performance, but I did not have any base that okay, what is maybe let's say the selection criteria in IIT. But fortunately, I was able to crack IIT. I was able to get into IIT Kharagpur, and I got electrical engineering department. And I would say that had a profound impact on as far as my exposure is concerned. I met people from diverse backgrounds, economic, social backgrounds, geographical places. I had not traveled beyond, you can say, UP or Bihar. So that gave a lot of perspective. Along with that, I was not very academically, I would say that being from a state government board, I was primarily used to having exam at the end of the year. So semester system was very new to me. So first semester I did okay. Second semester my grades went down. So first semester I had around 7.5, second semester 7.3, and then at that point in time, all this software bubble had burst. I was quite scared whether I'll get employment or not. So I took a conscious decision. Fortunately, I had a very keen interest in yoga, and I also got an opportunity to be part of yoga there. And I would say that it helped me quite a bit in terms of building, you can say, a healthy lifestyle as well as building focus. And to my utter surprise, I won't say that I made dramatic, you can say, interventions, but I straight away, my CGPA, my SGPA, I would say, went to 9.5. So that was very dramatic. I never expected that it would increase so. And then subsequently, I carried on with that kind of academic performance. And when I finally graduated, I thought, okay, it is enough. I don't want to study anymore. बस job करनी है, and then I have to be that line of thinking I had, and then I have to carry on. I joined Tata's, but I did not find that my knowledge was being utilized, and then from there I moved to an entity called Hindustan Petroleum. I gave their exam. I got into their projects and planning department, and I did interesting work. I was involved with Mundra Delhi pipeline project, 1500 crore project. I was part of the purchase team, being the only engineer, and I would say that gave me an inclination because I was also able to observe what kind of job engineers do, and I realized that maybe I'm not so suited for engineering job. Even though my academic performance was quite good, so I stayed there for 2 years. I second stint in Sun Petroleum was with around their refinery in Vishakhapatnam. So by being there, I gave my CAT exam, and fortunately, I was able to clear all the IIMS exams, and ultimately I joined IIM Ahmedabad. So at IIM Ahmedabad, also I had great exposure. And I would say that it was quite contrasting compared to an engineer's role. So, and all those, I would say, those experiences helped me build a lot of perspective about life. I explored opportunities in various facets. I was part of various students' cells, and also did an exchange. Part of my MBA I did in France, and another in Belgium. Summer school I did. So all those led me to be where I am as of now. And subsequently, I had experience in multiple sectors: steel, banking, education, entrepreneurship, teaching.
Great, sir. That's really nice to hear about all of these experiences and journey. So if I ask you what are the things you are passionate about in your life, and what is the role of motivation and inspiration onto it further?
Okay, so I would say, in my opinion, with what I have seen, at various facets of junctures in life, people would have different kind of, I would say, passions. In case I have to term it as something which drives day-to-day activity. So when you are young, when you are not married, when you do not have a responsibility, probably, and also similar exploration might be something which would you would be quite passionate about, and then maybe getting a good designation, good money, good salary, being at a place where maybe you can have much better experiences. But subsequently, when a lot of other responsibilities come in, the things which drive you, kind of passions, those also change. But throughout the journey, what also you get to experience is something innate which drives you. As far as my perspective is concerned, I could identify that helping people, educating, is something which is an activity which is really interesting, and I would say that I enjoy it. And that helping could be in terms of, as I mentioned earlier, educating. So either maybe let's say a academic program, or maybe even mentoring. So mentoring could be in terms of whatever little set of knowledge I have, whatever life experiences I have, sharing that, guiding people. And as far as role of motivation and inspiration is concerned, they also at various juncture of lives, you have different set of motivation and inspirations.
Correct.
So I was fortunate enough to be educated by great people. So Dr. Kalam, post his presidential tenure, he also taught a course at IIM Ahmedabad. So and having interacting with this kind of an individual face to face, you realize that a very normal person may not be very good, you can say, engaging speaker, but the humility, the sense of, you can say, feeling of commonness which such kind of individual have, that motivates, that inspires. So at that point in time, I would say that was a great motivation, inspiration. And then what we have is some cases, people like us who are from IIT, IIMs, maybe have seen the so-called creams of maybe the best of the education which this country has to offer. We build something called gas. So and in due course of time, when we have to interact with people, we usually don't put our feet on ground, and then we have a so-called maybe high-headed approach. So fortunately, with all these experiences, I was able to keep my feet on the ground, interacting in as normal way as possible, and it also helps us build good perspective about things which are around us. Appreciate every kind of individuals, you can say, contribution to your well-being as well as society's well-being, and subsequently when of course when I had kids, so education, and then involving in their education process, seeing these young kids who are maybe in nursery, KG, or class 1, that inspires, because you see that there are set of people, there are set of individuals who are going to be future of this country, as well as their actions will impact the society quite at large. So
Right.
that now motivates me to maybe make the ecosystem better, add as much value as I can within my lifespan, so that for youngsters like them, things are better. So what we experience, they experience slightly better.
Right, that's really wonderful. So, sir, now if I ask you about your work and experiences, most of the things you have already shared. So, how is the transition from like corporate to now as a full-time trainer?
Okay, so I would say that has have to have a, I would say, I will have to attribute that experience to my management education, because if I have to contrast management education with engineering education, management is quite a bit about optimization. So when I, after my MBA, when I had this startup experience, along with two of my classmates, we set up this consulting firm. We advised government of Assam as well as two startups. That also helped us build and test waters around what all skill set we have, what all market would require. And then subsequently, I worked with Yes Bank, and then finally, I identified my interest in education. So within the education space, I was involved with a private academic institution based out of Delhi, FOSTEMA. So I used to teach BBA, MBA student, and then I was involved in setting up a private university in the district of Saharanpur, and that was great experience. As I said earlier, all these experiences helped me narrow down onto this area of identifying what actually drives me, what are actually of interest to me, and I would like to single out this experience setting up this university, because Saharanpur, you have a significant Muslim population, but not economically, I would say, well-to-do. But to my utter surprise, I saw that there was not lack of drive, quite good drive. So when we had taken BTech students, their basic numeracy skills were not up to the mark. When we got involved with them, that was a good experience. And I was also teaching MBA students. I'm happy to say that many of them are doing quite good. They had a very limited view of the world, but when they got in touch with us, when they interacted with us, it helped them build a lot of drive. And when you are teaching in a classroom environment, you get to have feedback on the spot, whether the students are learning, whether what we are saying is making sense or just going above head. So that also became very engaging. So feedback, and then subsequently it became a kind of habit, and that's how I got into training. And then when I got involved with Losico, because Ramanujan team I knew, they're very, I would say, great entrepreneurs within the tech space, and that had been great journey. Even when learning with these senior professionals, having 25, 30 years of experience, we get to have a lot of perspective. So it is not that training is just one way route. Whatever, let's say, the feedback which we get in the session, it also helps us modify our teaching process, even around the content kind of modification which we have to incorporate, so that they feel that their time spent is well spent. And also in the process we learn. So that had been the motivation drive, and that's how keeping me going ahead.
Right. That's really nice. Now, if I ask you, like, what is your vision, mission, and goal in life for next 5 to 10 years from now?
Okay, so vision, I would say, to help people to build a better ecosystem. Mission would be to bring change around, and then through various kind of interventions, maybe let's say direct education, mentoring, etc. Goals to help increase my reach and train as many learners as possible, and build a better ecosystem. Not just per se, let's say, one course which I teach to independent aspiring independent directors, because these individuals, when they have good experiences, better understanding, they would be able to help that ecosystem through better governance interventions, and also other set of students who we train. They can be, of course, they can get to have much more belief on whatever skill sets they have and how to better utilize those skill sets. So the goal would be to train as many learners as possible, to guide as many even startups as possible, because given we may have better demographic divide and much younger population, but if employment opportunities are not created, that can be a nightmare. So even from bringing positive, I would say, changes in the society is concerned, all these activities are very important, and job generation, of course, is very, very important.
Correct. Rightly pointed out. So now, if I ask you, like, what are your most important life lessons from your personal and professional journey so far?
Okay, so I would say that there would be four or five. One, I would say that I realize no matter how smart you are, how well equipped you are, you cannot do everything.
Correct.
So you have to optimize your time, and whatever maybe resources you have at your hand, you have to optimize its uses. Other would be kind. So no matter maybe let's say how well endowed you are in your maybe let's say intellectual monetary resources, you are dependent on the society for various aspects, and in different point in time, your dependence varies. So even let's say you are highly educated for your kids' education, you would be dependent on schools, teachers, and everyone I would say that have their own battles. So we can't just take our perspective that okay, things should be like this, and maybe we should think intellectually. Other people should also try to think intellectually as we think. It is not the reality. So, and as I usually try to articulate it by saying that not all fingers of a hand are same. So you will have people maybe of one kind as far as intellectual let's say caliber is concerned, but other aspects would be something which they may have better than you might have. So there is an opportunity for everyone to learn, and there is an opportunity for everyone to teach. Only the extent might vary, but one can learn from everything. Now and then be approachable. So because as I mentioned that being from a small city, my journey here, actually it is not just my experiences, but experiences of all the individuals I came across. And all these people, they were very kind, very nice as far as maybe giving their time is concerned. So we should also be approachable, no matter we get at times frustrated by incessant demand of students who may perceive that they do not have that intellectual caliber. But we should also remember that from what we studied in schools, Panini, who made so-called Vyakran Mahabhashya, who created, even he was not supposedly a very bright student. So
Right.
some level of patience, being approachable is very much required, because we never know. And teachers, learners, those who mentor, I would say their impact, I would say, transcends generations. Unfortunately, I was just reading a report yesterday that almost 40% or almost 40-50% of the teacher in India, despite we celebrated Teachers' Day 2 days ago, they get paid around less than 10,000 rupees or so. So
Correct.
unfortunately, the due recognition which they need to get, they are not getting. But we should admire that despite having maybe, let's say, such limited financial rewards, they are impacting lives of generations, and not just one generation. As I mentioned, that instructor, teachers, or guides impact can transcend generations. So maybe multi-generational impact they are doing. So we
Correct.
should acknowledge that. So we should be approachable, and everyone can be teacher. It is not that one has to have a tag of so-called doctor or a teacher. One need to be teaching in a school. Everyone can teach, and in some way we teach everyone. So we should be approachable, and it also adds to our learning. And then I would say that one of the most important lessons which I learned was learn to accept failures, and not just in personal life, professional life also. And that is what we also, when advise startups, we tell them, learn to accept failures and move forward. It's very difficult to do. It's very easy to say, but
Agree.
very difficult to do. But all these are a couple of life lessons which I had, and I try to live by them as much as possible.
Correct. Really important. If we follow them, we definitely would move on a right way, and positive impacts would definitely be there. So now we are moving on to the next part. Like, since you've been working closely with the startup ventures and startups, so on to this further. Like, could you share some key insights into the role of an advisor within an incubator like the Stepup Ventures, where what are the primary challenges and opportunities you encounter when guiding startups through their early stages?
Okay, so I would segregate them into three stages. One being let's say, when an incubator is there, usually they would have a cohort. Some cases, maybe they would have a rolling process. But usually the startups, the incubators I have been involved, they had a cohort system. I perceive that that is a good also approach. So at the filtering stage, when we, let's say, ask for solicited applications, I will have flood of applications. So at that juncture, and then the second stage is around the whole cohort program, what kind of interventions we can have, and then the end, let's say, taking them in front of investors. So as far as at the initial stages it is concerned, it is a humongous task to filter, and it is not that all startups are bad. They would be at various level of preparedness. Some may just be having an idea, so almost 20%, 30%, the kind of applications which we used to receive, they would be just some ideas, some maybe, let's say, initial level of things they would have done, and they just want to get onboarded, and then maybe, let's say, go ahead with it. So usually we try to avoid it, because when they themselves have not seen, let's say, the marketability of that idea, and are not thought through the ideas, given our limitations and then the limited 3 months time span, we see that we may not be able to contribute very effectively. And then so filtering stage is something where a lot of, I would say, challenges are there, and that is where but few cases, even individuals. So it is not that only the product or the service idea is the principle of importance. Even the individuals who are running it. So even we do an assessment. We try to see, even if, let's say, maybe there is 10-20% of lacuna in the product, 30-40%, but the person who is running it, maybe the person or the team behind it, it is very, I would say, well driven, experience, have corporate experience, have experience of running some, being part of established organizations, seeing things day in and day out. We take them. So those are also, so trying to have, you can say, this fine filter. So that of course would be limited based on what knowledge we have, and then whatever the other mentors' knowledge we have, we used to take it. Now, second case, of course, the coachability, whether these individuals, they would be coachable or not. So some cases we have observed that they are so adamant on their idea, they just don't want to take feedback. They're very closed approach, and since it is their own baby, people have a kind of, I would say, attachment with that idea. They think that that okay, probably what line of thinking they have, it is the best line of thinking, and what other feedbacks other people are giving probably does not merit attention. It is not so. So coachability, of course, some are very coachable, and we have observed with practical, you can say, example that they did reasonably well post even this what you call it the sessions which we had, all these interventions which we had with them. After that, as far as the investment is concerned, the investment is a long drawn process.
Right.
So startups need to have, I would say, patience, tenacity to remain, you can say, having conviction of that idea. We, of course, do hand holding for all that period of time. So all those are, I would say, challenges and opportunity. So finding the right set of startups, and then whatever maybe we can do, of course, we would have set of limitations, within those limitations working.
Correct. So lots of work needs to be done in this space. So moving on, next
Yeah.
one, like in your experience, like advising various startup, what common trends or strategies have you observed that contribute to their success? Are there any specific qualities or approaches that set successful startups apart from the rest?
Yes, so I would like to mention 5-6 points. So first, we found that persistence. So they need to be persistent with their ideas. They need to have good planning. So planning not just for the startup but for their life itself. Because in case usually what happens, most of the startups we have come across, either the startup owners would be in their late 20s, early 30s. Very few we have come across maybe late 40s or so. Some we have also come across maybe in their 50s. But those who are maybe in their late 20s, etc., primarily these would be from middle class background, some set of financial responsibilities. So as far as their financial requirement is concerned, we also have observed that those who have well planned and some runway, they have planned that okay, whatever maybe let's say seed investment they had received, or whatever maybe let's say resources of fund they have some runway, so that they do not become desperate, because in startup ecosystem, making money takes some amount of time. So one need to have that drive, that planning, so that they don't become desperate, and some kind of runway they should have. And then team efforts, we have seen that it yields better results. So rather than an individual running everything together, having a team, maybe 2 or 3 set of people, that gives much better, I would say, drive, because at moments people might get demotivated. They may get into, let's say, thinking stage that maybe things may not work. So they need to get out, and that's where this team support system works. And then maturity. Maturity does not only mean in terms of age. Maturity means being open, being coachable, being able to learn, being able to appreciate the reality of the startup ecosystem, that 95% of the startups might die down, but it does not mean that it will not add some value to that startup owner. Startup owners learn tremendously, and I would say I have been a startup owner, even though in the consulting space, that adds tremendous value, and I would say no formal education system can give you that. So having that maturity to see that okay, even if let's say you, and people do not have failure, I would say that they do not have success. So both two things, I would say they are different. Not having success is not a problem, because at least you will learn something, and then that is something which can let's say contribute effectively in whatever next set of activities you take up, and then there is likelihood of better success. So these are what I would say that better strategies which startups can we have seen success.
Right, that is really wonderful one. And implementing these things can really do wonders. So in the dynamic world of startups, every day can bring a new challenge and surprises. Can you recount a particularly memorable and expected moments or turning points when advising one of the startups at the Stepup Ventures? How did you navigate this, and what valuable lessons did it impart?
Okay, yes. So we had, I would say, 1 or 2 startups where the journey was very interesting. So we had this tech company. They had brought out AR-based reading content, and the concept as well as couple of products, you can say sample of products which they prepared. We found it interesting, and to our, I would say, positive surprise, they had also raised decent funding from different individual, even well-known entities, if I remember correctly, Facebook also and some other entities also. But going forward, and they were two people. Going forward, unfortunately, we observed that they were just hopping from one grant to another. And then just this one basic idea without, you can say, showing a full-fledged, maybe long-term perspective that where they would take it. They were just hopping from one grant to another. We tried to bring them a sense of reality. We tried to, but unfortunately, it did not, despite our best of the practices, it did not yield results. So we had to, unfortunately, throw them out. Even though we saw that if they would have gone in that line, they would have had better potential. But we had to throw them out because it was it was a drag on our resources, efforts. We wanted to get them a reality check that, okay, even if let's say you have some idea, but unless and until you see in a business context, unless and until you see as a sustainable activity, people after a while, they will just start discounting you and whatever impressions you create, that can carry on. So even though let's say you may be able to just make people wow with your ideas, after a while they will see that, okay, it is a lot of gas, and then that impression carries on, and it will not help, because when let's say if you leave this idea, if you jump onto other idea, so that kind of impression would carry on, and then no one may like to touch even that investment. Wanted to get them a reality check, and what we did was, based on this, we also improved our internal processes so that we are able to identify that, okay, even though at prima facie they may appear to be very good, the people component, identifying that who are the people running it, we should also take that one, probably give greater weightage rather than maybe just the product idea, and then in case you are able to raise fund.
Correct. Combination of all the factors. Right. So now if I ask you, like, what is your take on success? How it does look like to you?
Okay, so success, I would say that it has different dimensions to it, and at different junctures in life also, it might mean different to different people. But yes, I would say that a certain level of financial resources is part of that success. But beyond that, I would say that the kind of work experience which one has, work satisfaction out of that work, that is, I would say, greater emphasis at certain point in time. And probably I would like to also bring in perspective from Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So once you have achieved a certain level of financial so-called security, beyond that, the success has various kind of meanings. So one being, of course, work satisfaction, which one gets, and then whatever kind of positive changes you're bringing around. And in some cases, of course, the kind of recognition which people get at various platforms, those also become part of that success dimension. And in some cases, it might also be that, okay, not just one factor, but combination of these 2-3 factors becomes success.
Right.
So, and of course, one should, as I mentioned earlier, that one should also pay attention to it, that success at different junctures in life can mean different things. So there is not, in my opinion, with what I have seen, it does not have a single definition, and also not a single factor, but a multitude of factors. But yes, at most of the places, certain level of financial resources, I would say that does mean it contributes to that definition of success.
So overall, that is really important.
Yes.
Right. So we are moving on to the last one. Any message or advice you would like to share with our viewers and listeners?
Yes. So I would say that dream, because unless and until people dream, they will not be compelled to utilize maybe whatever knowledge they have to see where do they stand. And usually what happens, what I have seen is most of the cases, and I have been part of various alumni cells. I've been part of Pan IIT Europe, Pan IIT Gujarat. I was part of Ahmedabad Alumni Association. I've interacted from first batches of IIMs to present batches. Most of the cases, we come across people crib, or they have dissatisfaction around things which they did not explore rather than the things they explored. So dream, experiment, believe in oneself and people. Of course, you do not have to blindly believe in people. You have to check and it is okay to test, but believe in people, because we live in a society, and in that ecosystem we are dependent on people, good, bad, ugly, but we are dependent on people. And I would say that don't do unethical things. In a short period of time it may seem very lucrative, I would say, proposition, but in long term it does not work well. And that I have also seen, because my father had been from judicial services. We had seen people in their day-to-day life might come across one or two legal cases, but we used to see daily some cases. Father used to discuss it. Even there was a DSP who was staying beside our house. The kind of experiences which he went because of whatever corrupt practices he was involved in. I can say that in short period of time it may sound to be a lucrative opportunity, but long term it does not work well. And the impacts do not just remain to your life, but even to your subsequent generations, to at least one or two generations. Those effects can last
Correct.
in people's mind. May not be, let's say, world at large, but in whatever vicinity, whatever locality, whatever caste community you belong to, within that it may stay that in the people's memory. Now, I would say again that define parameters of success. So that would be around. It's difficult to do when you are pretty young, but you should always focus. Try to define what does success, what does the satisfaction mean to you. And I would say that another thing which I would maybe I'll try to bring it from belief in people perspective. I would say that in due course of time, I realized that no one is bad. No one wants to be bad. So I never found a bad person. What we only find is bad ideology, bad perspective, I would say, and bad whatever, maybe let's say incorrect perception they have of things around. And that is easy to change. People are not inherently bad. Even Ravan, if we take, even though he is demonized, even Ravan was considered a great intellect. And even at his deathbed, as per the couple of scriptures, even Ram told that as far as maybe let's say duties of a king are concerned, he asked, if I remember correctly, Vibhishan and Lakshman to go and take lessons. And as far as even let's say carrying on the so-called rituals, pujas are concerned, he was considered to be great authority. So no one inherently is bad, but of course his view, his perspective was bad, which in people can be changed. Of course, sustained efforts are needed. So we should believe in people. We should give them maybe an opportunity to make mistake, but we should always be conscious. So it is okay to keep distance with people and letting them know that okay, we are away because of this reason. But the inherent humanity perspective, we should not lose on.
Correct.
So we should trust in people, believe in people. We give them chances, and then of course we should check. And all these aspects taken together, I would say that we have a very limited life. What we should try to do is bring as much positive change as possible. Never try to hurt consciously, and that's where I would like to say that all these aspects are needed.
Really important.
And people should follow.
Yes, rightly said. And what an amazing insights you have shared, sir. That was really wonderful. And I really enjoyed the discussion. Whatever you have shared was really amazing. And I'm looking forward to have similar more conversation wherein we would be having discussion on similar topics or maybe on different topic to share more awareness or more knowledge. So I am looking forward to it. Thank you so very much.
Thanks.
Priya.
Thanks, Jitendra, for Thanks, Jitendra, for having me here, and my best wishes for your startup. You're trying to do a tremendous, I would say, work. Payment gateway system, of course, given the UPI, its reception, its adaptability. I think it is needed in cross-border transactions because a lot of, I would say, inefficiencies are there. So you planning to address it, I think it has great space, and my all best wishes.
Thank you. A lot more to do now, and before that, it was really a wonderful session today, and I would be sharing your social media link along with the interview so that people can be in touch with you, take your help and guidance also, who are in the startup or maybe who are looking forward to create their own personal brand as well. So that will be helpful to them. So guys, don't forget to check that out too. Thank you so very much everyone for watching and listening. I hope you all must have gathered a lot of information and enjoyed watching it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Have a good day. Thank you and bye-bye.